George Kilpatrick Inspiration for the Nation, celebrating people that we feel good about. Cedric Bolton is a poet, and he's got a new role at the Syracuse Community Connections Southwest Community Center. Remind me, my brother, dear brother, what that role is.
So I am the Chief Operations Officer at Syracuse Community Connections. Joined them in September 4th of 2024, and excited to be there, and try to do some new things and reimagine some of the older things. So I'm excited for what we're doing, and led by Valerie Hill, who's our CEO of Syracuse Community Connections. So we're delighted to have this event that's coming up on Tuesday, celebrating the life of Nikki Giovanni, one of our legends, and someone being a poet as myself and being influenced by her work. What better place to do it but at our community center and bring our people together, you know?
Yeah, no, let's talk about it. So, you got two events coming up. The first one, and first of all, Nikki Giovanni. I mean, I had her on my show. I met her a couple of
Hmm.
times. The last time I met Nikki Giovanni, it may have been an event you put together. She spoke at
Yeah.
Syracuse University. I'm sure you had your hand in it. I'm sure you did. Which is the last time I actually got a chance to meet or speak with her. But you're
Hmm.
having a poetic black fusion writers workshop on the 27th. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so two of the acts that's going to be sharing poems on Tuesday are coming down from Maine. That's Michelle Tarshish, known as Mimi, and their group is called Signature Soul. It's going to be leading a writers workshop, 6 to 7:30, at Syracuse Community Connection, 401 South Ave. For an opportunity for those who are looking to have a chance to write. Poetic Black Fusion, which is a company that I started in Minneapolis, it puts that space into Syracuse Community Connection with this artist who's coming from Portland, Maine. And not only on top of that, she's also the eighth poet laureate of Portland, Maine. So this young lady has been instrumental in some of the programming I had at SU when she was an undergrad, and now she's out there. Michelle Tarshish, she's out there doing it on a national level, with being the poet laureate of Portland, Maine. So I'm really proud to see that she decided to join the event on Tuesday, but also to extend a hand in doing the writers workshop the day before, which will excite some of the folks who are coming to the event, but also was looking for something else to do on Monday. So we've been doing workshops for many years at Syracuse University, but my hand have been extended doing writers workshops in Minneapolis. And I started Poetic Black Fusion from a spark from being involved with a national program called Kavi Kanum,
Hmm.
which was started by Joy Delacourt and Cornelius Eady. So partially, Gwen, my wife, extended this opportunity while I was living in Minneapolis, and I submitted
Hmm.
some poems to be a part of a day writers workshop. So that built my interest in writers workshops and arts and education. And
Hmm.
so Poetic Black Fusion was built from that, and it lends a space now at Syracuse Community Connection to start rebranding it at this center now.
Well, that's a beautiful thing, and of course, that's for the aspiring poets and writers. But then the next day, Tuesday, you got a tribute to Nikki Giovanni. We lost our queen of poetry. I call her the nation's poet laureate, with all due
Hmm.
respect to Maya Angelou, but she was also in the struggle, writing really from a position of power, and suffrage, and really using her voice to tell the story of our community. And so you got a tribute to her. Tell me about that on Tuesday, the 28th.
Yeah, so I extended invitations to a number of poets who I've either mentored or friends of, and to share something of Nikki that inspired them. And so we have um, Ray, who's known as Ruthney Angron, Mike the poet, uh, Symphony Simone Owens, the deputy mayor's daughter, Dr. Joanna Rogers, Mimi, Michelle Tarshish, and Marco, who's coming from Portland, Maine. Flows, who's also a master's student, but she also was a part of a program I had at SU. And actually, when you came to that program at Syracuse University with Nikki, she was the poet that actually opened up for her. So she's
Oh,
back
really?
getting her
So
master's.
you did
Yeah,
have your hand in it.
I so I had my hand in some parts of it, but I had, students. My thing is always putting the students in front of
Right.
these um, legendary artists so that way they can make connections. That's always been my thing. So yes, I say yes, I did in some sense. And prior to that event, you probably didn't notice, George, but we had a collaboration with the bookstore, Moleskine, and Apple. We're in the basement of the Shine Student Center in the bookstore. We had an open mic for that was for about 17 to 18 students who performed in front of Nikki. So she stayed there, even though she was only supposed to be there for 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. She said, Cedric, I want to see all of the poets. So she was there until the last poet did their poem. And then we honored them with the poetic, we honored her with being an honorary member to New World Poet Society. The last person who's going to be on the stage is Dr. Gwendolyn Pugh, my wife. So
Mm-hmm.
um, it's not going to be in that order, of course, but we just on the flyer I put those names there, and the order will be that. And then we also have DJ Shy Guy, who's going to be playing music of Nikki. We want the room to fill up with Nikki, her sound and audio, but also the words from people who are going to be reading poems that meant a lot to her. For example, I have two poems that I picked, which I put into our group chat, Nikki Rosa and Scrapbooks are two poems that I will do. And I'm going to be doing something very special with my drum machine, George, as took the scrapbook sound, and I actually took the sample, chopped it up, and made a beat to it. And I'm going to do the poem over that to give the audience a sense of, what you can do, what she has done with her poetry, not only through the literary sense of writing and putting in a book, but also the audio work that she have online. That's records that's out there from the 70s up to current time. So I want the audience to understand that there's so much more with poetry that you can do besides just writing in the book. You can actually record it and it's going global all over the world. So I think this is going to be one of those type of events where you're going to hear different pieces of testimonials from the artists. And at some point, I will, if we have enough time and there's people in the audience who want to say what Nikki meant to her, I would love to give a chance for the community to, say a few words if there's time within the space to do that. But I think it's important for our young people to know who our legends were and what they really meant to Black art, to the Black arts movement, but to Blackness and global acknowledgement of what we do through expression.
So,
So you
mm-hmm.
know, it's important that kids need to understand the
What
legacy of our people.
what did Nikki Giovanni mean to you? What did Giovanni mean to the culture? Talking about the tribute to Nikki Giovanni happening Tuesday, 28th of January. Doors open at 5:45. I assume it's a free event.
It is a free event. Yes, it
All
is.
right. So what did
Yes, it
she
is.
mean? Yeah, what did she mean to the culture, and what did she mean to you?
Well, what did Nikki mean to me is, I came upon knowing about Nikki Giovanni through Gwen, my wife. She's was I think one of the first poems that I came across was Nikki Rosa, and we have from that I bought my first book of Nikki, which is Black Feeling, Black Talk, Black Judgment. This book here, and and from reading her work, I felt really connected to how she spoke truth to power. She spoke from her heart, and she didn't leave nothing for chance in terms of what she stood on, what she stood for, whether it was in the interviews or whether she's teaching in a classroom at Georgia Tech. She really was about upliftment and a betterment of our people through the word of spoken word poetry. And so to me, she's the only poet, and I say this a lot to people. When I met her in 2013 at the event at Syracuse University, I never thought that I would have a relationship up until she passed away with her. Meaning that after the event, she wrote me a nice postcard, mailed it to me, And I could not believe it. I received a postcard from Nikki Giovanni thanking me for being a generous host because I drove her around,
Hmm.
uh, had her with the students, but also talked to her about verbal blend poetry program, which is something that I developed. And one of the things that I found to be important is Barry Wells, who was at that time was a senior vice president, dean of student affairs, was watching Tavis Smiley right after Nikki had did this engagement at Syracuse University, went on to the show and talked about her poetry, but also Tavis asked her a question: do you think poetry is dead? And this is I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but Nikki Giovanni said, "No, I just was at Syracuse and I just saw a wonderful program where they had poetry with the young people in the college. So no, and to globally, put that on a global space, right? To say on a syndicated show that at Syracuse University, which now is a plug for Syracuse University through the arts,
Hmm.
right? She
Right.
didn't have to do that, right? She didn't have to talk about during the time she was speaking at the event, letting the administration know that Cedric, who has a program for poetry, a poetry program, need to have some of that athletic money to support what he's trying to do because we want him to come to Virginia Tech with his students and battle our students. So she meant more than just foot service, lip service, lip service. She was really about the business of engaging the world through the arts and the culture. And just like with hip hop, you look at what she loved Tupac, right? I think she
Hmm.
loved anyone who had something to say and spoke truth to power. And so to 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 shed that light on a national show and show a tattoo, which became iconic, right, in terms of people who not only love Tupac, now are loving on this artist, right, this poet, this legendary Black woman who
Hmm.
had so many elements and layers to her life and her style. And
Well,
so, mhm,
well, what I was going to say is I invite the community to learn more about Nikki Giovanni if they haven't, not only in her written work, but in her um, recordings,
right,
right? And I invite you to two workshops at the Southwest Community Center, Syracuse Community Connections. Monday, a writing workshop at 6 o'clock. The writing workshop will be 401 South Avenue in Syracuse. And then the tribute to Nikki, doors open at 5:45. January 27th on Monday, Tuesday, January 28th for the tribute to
right.
Nikki. A bevy of local poets. I don't even know if that's the right word, but anyway, there'll be a whole
It
lot of
sounds good
folk
to me.
that
Yes,
will
yes,
be in community giving you the
yes.
opportunity to hear one of the great American voices
Yeah.
of
And then
freedom.
on top of that, George, I'm me being the host, and you know how I am. I'm going to also shed light on what the center is doing in little pieces and bits to let people know programming that we're looking for. We celebrated 50 years at Syracuse Community Connection in October, so we are doing fundraisers. We got programs coming up in Black History Month, so we got a lot of things that we have going on at the center, and we really want people to not only participate but take investment in the center because it belongs to you. It belongs to Syracuse, to this community. So I'm excited to be able to be in a position to where I can do programming like this, but also set up to where things can springboard from that. And people probably wouldn't notice, and you wouldn't notice, George, but Unplugged Poets was the name of the event that Nikki came to.
Mm.
Unplugged Poets is the new program that I'm introducing to Syracuse Community Connection. To
So,
think that I was planning to bring Nikki here anyway from last fall, and we were going through the process of launching Unplugged Poets open
and
mic
here it
night,
is.
and yeah, exactly. So it full circle.
All right. How do people get more information?
So you can go to our website, SyracuseCommunityConnection.org, or you can give us a call at 315-6. 671-5816, or you can email me at cbolton@smnfswcc.org. I just got that right, George.
Fantastic. Tribute to Nikki, Tuesday,
Yes.
January 28th, 5:45 p.m. Doors open, Southwest Community Center, Syracuse Community Connections, 401 South Avenue, Syracuse Community Connections.org. George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation. Cedric, thank you so much.
Thank you, George. Love you, man.
Love you back.